in the Bible, the story of Uriah the Hittite and Bathsheba is found in the Old Testament book of 2 Samuel, specifically in chapter 11. In the spring, when kings go out to battle, King David remained in Jerusalem while his army went to war against the Ammonites. One evening, David walked on the roof of his palace and saw a beautiful woman bathing on a nearby rooftop. This woman was Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite, who was one of David's mighty men. David was overcome with desire for Bathsheba and sent messengers to inquire about her. They informed him that she was the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Nevertheless, David summoned Bathsheba to his palace, and they committed adultery together. Soon afterward, Bathsheba discovered that she was pregnant with David's child. David realized the gravity of the situation and attempted to cover up his sin. He sent for Uriah to return from the battlefield, hoping that Uriah would sleep with his wife and thus provide a plausible explanation for Bathsheba's pregnancy. However, Uriah, being a loyal and devoted soldier, refused to go home and enjoy the comforts of his house while his fellow soldiers were still in battle. When David learned of Uriah's refusal, he tried again to persuade him by getting him drunk. However, even in his intoxicated state, Uriah remained steadfast in his loyalty to his fellow soldiers and did not go to his house. Frustrated, David decided to take more drastic measures to conceal his sin. David wrote a letter to Joab, the commander of his army, and gave it to Uriah to deliver. The letter instructed Joab to put Uriah in the forefront of the fiercest battle and then withdraw from him so that he would be struck down and killed. Uriah, unknowing of the contents of the letter, faithfully carried it to Joab. Joab followed David's orders and arranged for Uriah to be placed in a position where the enemy's attack was strongest. As a result, Uriah was killed in battle, fulfilling David's plan. Upon hearing the news of Uriah's death, Bathsheba mourned for her husband. Once the mourning period was over, David took Bathsheba as his wife, and she became one of his wives. However, the Lord was displeased with David's actions, as they were considered sinful and a violation of the commandments. The Lord sent the prophet Nathan to confront David about his wrongdoing. Nathan told David a parable about a rich man who took a poor man's only lamb, illustrating the injustice of David's actions. David, unaware that Nathan was speaking about him, became outraged at the rich man's behavior. At that moment, Nathan revealed that the parable was a direct rebuke to David. He exposed David's adultery and murder, emphasizing the seriousness of his sins. David was deeply convicted and acknowledged his wrongdoing, confessing his sins before the Lord. Although David repented, the consequences of his actions were severe. The child conceived by David and Bathsheba became ill and died shortly after birth. Moreover, the Lord declared that the sword would never depart from David's house, indicating that his family would face ongoing strife and turmoil. Despite the tragic circumstances, the Lord showed mercy to David, accepting his repentance. Bathsheba later gave birth to another son, Solomon, whom the Lord loved. Solomon succeeded David as king and became known for his wisdom. The story of Uriah and Bathsheba serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of sin, the importance of personal integrity, and the need for repentance and God's forgiveness. Following the death of their first child, David and Bathsheba went on to have several more children together, including Solomon. Despite the forgiveness David received from God, the consequences of his actions continued to haunt him and his family. One of the most notable instances occurred later in David's reign, when his son Absalom rebelled against him. Absalom sought to seize the throne from his father and gain power for himself. During this rebellion, Absalom publicly demonstrated his disdain for David by taking possession of David's concubines, further highlighting the disgrace that had come upon David's household as a result of his sins with Bathsheba. In the end, David's forces defeated Absalom's rebellion, but the price paid was high. Absalom was killed in battle, causing David immense grief and sorrow. The rebellion and its aftermath served as a painful reminder to David of the lasting consequences of his sins. Despite these challenges, David's reign continued, and he sought to honor God and restore righteousness to his kingdom. Towards the end of his life, David made arrangements for his son Solomon to succeed him as king, as God had promised. Solomon became one of the most revered and prosperous kings in Israel's history. He is known for his wisdom, wealth, and the construction of the magnificent temple in Jerusalem. Bathsheba played an important role in securing Solomon's succession, as she used her influence to ensure that he would inherit the throne. Although Bathsheba's relationship with David began under sinful circumstances, God's redemptive plan allowed her to become the mother of the wise and prosperous King Solomon, who played a significant role in Israel's history. The story of Uriah and Bathsheba serves as a reminder of the devastating effects of sin, the need for repentance, and the unfathomable mercy and grace of God. It also underscores the importance of personal integrity, loyalty, and the pursuit of righteousness in our lives. Through this account, we learn that even in the face of our failures, God can bring about restoration and redemption.